Okay, so as I mentioned, deleting directories is a little bit trickier than deleting individual files. And that's mainly because a directory could have hundreds or thousands of other files and subdirectories inside of it. So deleting a single directory could have tons of repercussions compared to deleting a single file. So most operating systems are a little more cautious about it. So there's a command called rmdir, which I pretty much never use, and that's because it only allows you to delete empty directories using it. So for example, I think I have an empty directory, rusty pics. So if I cd out into dog photos, I could run rmdir rusty pics, and that deletes it, and it's gone. Now, if I look at Wyatt pics, however, it's also empty, but if I added a file, let's do touch Wyatt pics test.txt, so it's no longer empty. If I try an rmdir Wyatt pics, it gives me a warning, directory is not empty, and it did not delete it. All right, so that's why I pretty much never use rmdir, because how often do you need to delete an empty directory? At least in my experience, not that often. So there's another command. It's actually the same one we've been using, which is rm. However, on its own, rm won't delete a directory. So we have to pass in a flag. Just like with ls, where we had the A or the L flag, rm has a couple of options we can pass in that will change how it behaves. So if I just try and do rm on Wyatt pics right now, it tells me, hang on, Wyatt pics is a directory. I'm not going to delete that. It's still there. But by passing in this option -r, it stands for recursive, which basically means go through everything in this directory and everything in those directories. If there's anything else, kind of keep burrowing down through all the levels and delete everything inside of Wyatt pics. In our case, it's just a single file, but there could be tens of thousands of, nested levels. Okay, so here's an example. We have the stuff directory. We're inside of it, and I want to delete cat pics. So I do rm-rf, and we'll talk about the F in a moment, cat pics, and it's gone. And it's important to note that rm on its own doesn't work. We need to pass in, at the very least, -r. So let's do that now. So I'll do rm-r Wyatt pics. And there we go. It deleted it. I type ls, and it's gone. So you might be wondering what the -rf is for. So the -r is recursive. It means delete every subdirectory, go down the entire hierarchy and delete it all. And that usually works, but there might be some permission errors. So sometimes, I don't know if you've ever seen this on your computer, it will pop up and say, are you sure you want to delete this? Or you don't have permission to delete this, enter your password, things like that. So you might encounter a permissions error if you are not authorized to delete something, or you need to confirm that you want to delete something. Wait, hang on.
Tangent alert, tangent alert.
So real quickly, if you care, I'm going to demonstrate how you could actually come across this exact problem. So I'm going to start by making a new directory. I'll just call it testing. I'm on my desktop, by the way. And then I'll cd into testing, and I'm just going to make two files. So I'll just call them 1.txt and 2.txt. Okay, so right now, I could just use rm-r to remove this directory, but I'm going to show you a command that will actually change the permissions. So if we do an ls-l, remember I was talking about this earlier, this has to do with reading and writing permissions. So just notice what it looks like right now for these two files. Then the command I'm going to show you, chmod, allows us to change the permissions of this file. So for -w, that has to do with the write permissions. And again, this is a tangent, doesn't really matter, but I just wanted to show you. I'm recording this after the fact because I realized that I kind of just glossed over a real example of how this could happen. So 1.txt, 2.txt. Now if I do ls-l, you can see that the W is gone. So there's no write permission left. So when I go to delete this, there isn't permission because the write permission has been revoked. So if I go back out, and it's a testing directory, I try and do rm-r testing, I get this first warning, override for testing/1.txt. If I just hit enter, it will move to the next warning. I hit enter, and it will tell me, sorry, couldn't do that. So I can either do rm-r testing and then type y. I think yes might work as well, but y definitely works, or no, n. Or I can use rm-rf. So I'll do that now. rm-rf testing. And now it's gone. Okay, tangent over. But if you throw -F in there, it will just force its way through and delete everything and basically say, don't give me warnings. And you could verify this. So here's a little command we haven't seen. If you type MAN, I think it stands for manual, but people just call these man pages, and then you type the name of a command like RM, it gives you BSD, General Commands Manual for RM. So it gives you a synopsis or a description. The RM utility attempts to remove the non-directory type files specified on the command line. If the permissions of the file do not permit writing and the standard Bob, okay, doesn't matter. But then there are a couple options we can pass in. And as we've seen, -R here, lowercase r, it just says it's equivalent to uppercase R. And what it does is it attempts to remove the file hierarchy rooted in each file argument, blah, blah, blah. And then if we go up to -F, you can see it says, according to the manual, it attempts to remove the files without prompting for confirmation, regardless of the file's permissions. But long story short, most people use -RF together. So R is the important one to actually delete everything in the directory, and F is just force. That's the one that says, all right, if some problem comes up, if there's a warning, just skip it and just delete it. I don't want to hear about it. Don't whine at me. So -RF, commonly used together. To get out of man pages, by the way, you can type Q. And there's no evidence that we were ever looking at the manual. It takes you to its own little world. So we could also do man ls, and this gives us all the different options you can pass into ls. There's a lot of them. All right, so I'm going to hit Q, and let's see. I'm going to go into dog photos again. This time it actually is empty, so I'm going to make a new file here. I'm just going to call it touch delete me.txt. And then cd back out of dog photos. So dog photos now has something in it. So just one more time, rmdir would not work. rm-r works as well as -rf. And I'm used to just typing -rf anytime I want to delete a directory. So just to be upfront about that, you don't have to use the F, but you need the R. And there we go. All right, so that's it to deleting directories. It's a little trickier. The only thing I would mention about all of this is that you do need to be careful when deleting directories, because from your terminal, I could go back here to my home directory, or even worse. Okay, this would be really bad. I could go into this directory, users, and I could do rm-rf my entire user. And by adding the force, it's going to ignore all warnings. So I could lose everything. I don't actually know what would happen if I did that, because I'm currently using this account on this computer. I don't know what would happen. I'm not going to test it out, but just a note. I think I included a warning here. It's somewhat dangerous. So be careful, because there's no trash, there's no undo, it's gone. And on that note, very bleak, that wraps up the basics of the command line content. Next, we have a quick quiz. Then I promise we move on to Python soon.